Hello and welcome to the next newsletter on New Zealand Sport Radio, the show where a panel of football tragics discuss the latest going-ons in arguably the greatest football league in the world, or at least Australasia, the Bunnings A-League. More specifically, we're here to break down the performances of the Wellington Phoenix, preview their next game, and give all of you watching some news, opinions, and views on the league in a Kiwi accent rather than an Aussie one. This week, our panel are myself, Connor Clements, Dan Moskovitz, and hopefully joining us soon, if his computer sorts its issues out, Chris Scarrett, who we had on last week, and we loved so much that we want to get him on again. He was fantastic, and if his computer sorts itself out, he will be joining us. But for now, it's me and Dan. Dan, how are you doing? How'd you watch the game on the weekend? What were you up to? Give me a bit of a rundown of how you enjoyed the Wellington Phoenix versus the Wanderers.
Actually, really interesting story, because as some of you may know, I am in high school. So as I realized late on Sunday night, I was watching. I realized, hang on, I have a stats assessment which starts tomorrow. I need to do some research. So midway through the second half, while things are getting really good, I'm just frantically looking at the screen every time the commentator's voice goes up, while frantically also trying to do research for my statistics assessment. And I'm like dead tired at this point, and I'm like starting to lose it during the best game of the season. And then the final 5 minutes comes around, and holy crap, I am awake again, and I was yelling at the screen during Hemed's offside. How about yourself, Connor?
Yeah. I mean, that VAR decision, I mean, we'll talk about it more in depth because that was so close, and you really have to think they've got to give the benefit of the doubt to the striker. It's ridiculous how they just keep doing that. But for sure, yeah, we got to talk about that all. And I see that Scazz has just joined us, so I'm going to add him to the stream. Scazz, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Can you actually hear me is the question?
Yeah, we can hear you, mate. We can hear you. And yeah, you're all good. I can see your mic's a bit up as well, but you've joined and you've got the Phoenix shirt on, which is perfect.
Not even the mic I'm using. Serious computer troubles, but anyway, luckily I've got a second one.
Yeah, we were just talking about a quick summary of how Dan watched the Wanderers game, and then we were talking as well about that VAR decision, which we're going to touch on a lot more as we go on, which is like offside by the barest of millimeters, if it was offside at all. I know that a lot of us don't think it was offside at all, but I think going back to that game, I mean, we were treated to an absolute legendary game. We were treated to one of the best games probably of the A-League season so far, if not one of the best A-League games I've seen in a long time. There were some cracking goals in there. I don't know how Cammy Devlin didn't get goal of the round, because that was an insane goal. I don't think the Wanderers player deserved to get that ahead of him after pushing Payne, obviously, in the back, and then chesting it and volleying it in. At the end of the day, I think that was a foul, but, you know, what do I know? I'm not a referee. So let's just talk about the game in depth now. I mean, the Phoenix so unlucky to lose 4-3 at the end of the day. I think that on another day we would have won, and probably won about 5-2, 5-3. So, I mean, I'll start with you, Dan. What were your thoughts on the game in terms of the way that we played? What were your thoughts on maybe the goal that Cammy Devlin scored? And also just what were your thoughts on the whole performance of the Phoenix in general?
All right, I just muted myself there because my parents are just coming home and my dog is barking.
I can hear your dog barking, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Guest down the show, Sasha Moskovitz. But the game, like as I said, I love my second half. I don't have much memory of because I was frantically trying to do research for statistics. But holy crap, like even after, like, as a football fan, you get really emotional about all this stuff. And I know we're going to go into Hemed's not a goal more. And I was obviously outraged after the Hemed goal. But the thing about this game is that it didn't take me down off my high, because I was still buzzing at this game. Thank you, Sasha. Because the game was just that good. So, yeah, like, obviously, I think we definitely played quite well in the first half. Cammy Devlin, beautiful. I love him. He's this week's God amongst men. And obviously Davila on the score sheet, and it was great to see Hamid get off the mark as well, and also the Israeli Jewish community which came out to support him, which, as a Jew myself, that was fucking beautiful, and I loved that. But yeah, and Hamid off the mark is lovely to see. Other than that, I mean, the big question is, can he kick on? Because, like, 2 goals in a game that intense, you'd think there would be... There isn't a better impetus to start being the import striker you hyped up to be. But after having that taken away from him, I hope he's psychologically strong enough to keep bouncing back, because he did get a goal, even if it was just a penalty.
Yeah, I think we should go to Scazz as well to talk about Hamid a bit more in depth, what your thoughts were on him, and then your thoughts on the game overall.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Hamid, it's certainly a better game than he's had previously for us. We can only hope to see improvement each time he comes on and get him building some form up. I thought Wayne was doing quite well earlier on in the game. Certainly in the first half, he had a lot more hold-up play than I'm used to seeing from him. Bringing other players into the game quite well, but he was definitely starting to tire as the second half went on, and I think it was the right move to bring him on. Penalty, penalty's a penalty. You take them. Every goal counts, so that was good for him. But he'll be disgusted at that referee decision for what should have been the equaliser, millimetres, as you say. More generally, I guess, around the game, I think, to me, it's a game that's been cost by an injury in the warm-up. I think if we have Fenton there at right back, at least 2 of the goals don't get scored. Think of the first one, Roof hasn't played right back for a while. He's obviously been doing really well in the midfield for us over the last few seasons, but I don't think he really showed that he has much of a knack for right back in that game, without being too harsh on him. He was completely out of position for the first goal, leaving a man completely unmarked to finish quite easily. I think it was the second goal, he was marking the man off the corner and didn't leap with him. So effectively gave him a free header, although it wasn't just him, it was McGarry with him as well. And I think there might have been another goal where he didn't track that very well. So to me, that's 2 or 3 goals that we wouldn't have conceded with Fenton or another right back in the spot. I did wonder whether we might have gone with Laws at centre-back and shifted Payne out to right-back. But then again, do you really want to disrupt that centre-back pairing that's been doing so well the last few games? For me, that was the big thing. If attacking, we were great. Should have been 4 goals. Should have been 4-2, in fact, in my view. But I think everyone will agree with that at this end of the side of the Tasman anyway. But no, it was an entertaining game.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Rufer as well, like, you're absolutely right. I think that with Payne playing so well at centre-back, it was hard to disrupt that. But with Fenton going down in the warm-up, I think you should have taken Rufer, left Rufer in the centre mid, maybe taken Payne out to the right, put Laws in. It just didn't make sense to put Rufer in that right-back position, and we saw straight away that he was exposed and that he wasn't used to that position at all. And I completely rate Rufer in terms of his centre mid work. I think he's been fantastic this season as a holding mid. He's doing exactly what we ask of him. But to go in the warm-up and suddenly talk to him and tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, by the way, Alex, you know that you've prepared all week to be the CDM. We're going to put you at right back. It's not what he wanted, and it showed in the performance. And I think that, it did cost us the game. And unfortunately, with Fenton being the injury-prone player he is, that's what happens. And it's happened again for Fenton, and it's gutting for the Phoenix because that's cost us 3 points there. So something that we definitely need to look into, and something that unfortunately has happened again for Fenton. So we wish him all the best in terms of his recovery. We hope that he can recover as soon as possible. And I think that Uffy and the Phoenix, the next game, would probably put Laws back into centre-back and move Payne back out to right-back, where Payne, because of his versatility, will do a great job there. We know he's so good at that. And he'll go in and he'll do that role. And I'm sure he'll do it to the best of his ability because, fantastic. Unfortunate with that goal that Duke scored with Payne, because obviously he was pushed off and he thought he had the header, and then that referee decision wasn't given. But to be honest, that wasn't the decision that I really cared about. The decision that I really cared about was that VAR one against Hamid. I think that he was at the most a millimetre offside, and you've got to give the benefit of the doubt to the striker there. And we've seen it happen in the Premier League, and now we've seen it happen in the A-League, and I'm sure it's happened in the A-League before in other matches where it's just a ridiculous margin that you've got to give the benefit of the doubt to the striker, and it's ridiculous that they've called it. So it's really unfortunate that it's happened. It's killing the game, and they need to stop that. And even if it had been against the Phoenix and it had been ruled against Western Sydney, I would have been gutted for Western Sydney, because if it had been a great goal and it had been someone who needed to score, like Hemed needed to score again for us, because a penalty is a penalty, right? But Hemed needs to score from open play. He needs that. It needs his confidence it would do his confidence a would of good. And so the fact is, to have that goal ruled out, it's just a killer. And it's a killer for us in terms of points, and it's a killer for Hemed in terms of confidence. And for me, it killed the game as well. So unfortunately, once again, we have to sit here and bemoan poor refereeing decisions. And once again, the Phoenix have been hard done by, and that's why we're languishing now near the bottom of the table again. Whereas if we'd won this, we could have started planning our rise at the top. And I know the points are still relatively even, and everything's still relatively close, but it just would have been nice to get those 3 extra points and move up the table. And we've just been gypped again, unfortunately. It's happened again.
Oh, just going back to one thing you said there, not being too upset about the decision on the Payne shove. I disagree. I think that should have been given every day. I don't care whether it's the Phoenix or anyone. You've got a centre-back who's leaping for the ball, who gets thrown off balance by a shove. It's the only reason the ball makes it to the striker. I thought that was a terrible call as well.
Yeah, I agree. I really didn't like it as well. But once again, I'm so used to these decisions now, it's kind of like water off a duck's back. I'm kind of like, okay, that's just what I expect in this league. And I know I shouldn't, but it's just the way I am. So I'm just like, okay, fine, this is what we're going to get. We just have to roll with the punches and move on. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it should have been given 100%. And you could see Payne's disgust. And Payne's not the kind of guy that's going to easily be shrugged off as well. So the fact is, he's been fully pushed there by Duke. And yeah, Duke scored a great goal afterwards. Congrats to him. But at the end of the day, it's a foul to lead up to it. And it's exactly what Harry Kane does for Spurs as well, where he throws a defender off, and he does it week in, week out. And people just seem to forget about that and go, oh, he's such a great striker because he finishes it. Well, he finishes it because he cheats. So the fact is that we've been cheated again. Yeah, 100%. So it's gutting to see that you get done by cheating. But if the ref doesn't pick it up, that at the end of the day, ref's only human, and so they miss that. And so that's why I said that we have to move on and we bounce back again.
VAR seemingly.
Exactly. So the VAR hasn't been used for its actual thing there again. And so, we can argue about that week in, week out. But the game itself, fantastic game. Some great goals for either side. Cammy Devlin, take a bow. I mean, what a rocket that was. And I'll be watching that goal over and over again for sure. It's just gutting that we can't have that goal contributing to a win, because it's always nice when you have such beautiful goals contributing to a win, and they kind of feel like they're a bit hollow when you don't get the 3 points. So, yeah, I really feel for Cammy there. And, I absolutely would love to see, hopefully in the future, some decisions go our way. That would be fantastic. Simon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Simon. But
Simon, you may wish to know that.
Sorry, Simon. Sorry, mate. I'm always
there's another gooner right here as well. So
yeah. I have to talk bad about Harry Kane. It's in my makeup. But yeah, you have to admit, in terms he's a great striker. He's world class, but he's also a cheat. So there's that. There's always that. Dan, I feel like me and Chris have had a big chat. So what were your thoughts on those two decisions?
Oh, well, so this may be due to me frantically doing my statistics research, but I'm going to go against you two here. Based off what I can remember, I haven't replayed the game since, but I didn't think there was that much in what Duke did there. And for me, that the ref didn't make the wrong call. Okay. All right, prefacing that with, I was heavily stressed by doing statistics research, which I had not done this week. And my technical knowledge of this game, as you will no doubt come to see in future episodes, is not that great.
I guess I've got the bigger one for the shoves at the back from defenders from personal experience. But anyway,
yeah. The big one is the VAR call, and yeah, he was offside by a millimeter. The VAR's stated purpose is to adjudicate on decisions which are clear and obvious. No one was saying, oh, that is a millimeter offside. Oh, it's not standard goal. In the best goddamn game we've seen in a very, very long time in the A-League. Like, it's just a bad decision. And the fact that VAR is going against its stated purpose, that's horrid. Why? Why would you do that? And what really grinds my gears is that, I mean, as a journalist, as a fan, as other journalists, and as other fans, we've been saying this for years. VAR sucks. Get it out of here. We're 4 episodes into the show, and we're already at the point where we've got to complain about a VAR decision. This happens week in, week out in the A-League, and it's still happening, and there's no action, and you don't need. There will be more times on the show where VAR is in the league that we will complain and bemoan and groan about the system. Get rid of it.
Yeah, and I think the purpose of VAR and the kind of, I don't know, witness statement or whatever, however you want to call it, the idea that it is going to help the game. Yes, it's positive in terms of the fact that maybe it might help the game and like it was brought in for a good purpose. But what we're seeing in the 2-3 years that we've had it is that it hasn't helped the game and that it isn't contributing. What has helped the game is goal line technology. That's been fantastic. I can't say enough about how much I love goal line technology. The ref's watch goes off. You know the ball's crossed the line. You've definitive proof that that's happened. That's fantastic. VAR, however, is another human being making more mistakes and bringing things up in a bad way. Let's let one human being make the mistakes, or maybe, 3, depending on if you include the ARs. And then let's just let those people make the mistakes and we live with it and we roll with it. Okay, so a linesman didn't put their flag up when someone was just offside. It happens, like we give them the benefit of the doubt, we move on. It happens in all, it happens in all sports. It happens in all grassroots level to the professional level. A linesman just misses an offside call. Okay, whatever. But then VAR comes in and they review things from about 15 million angles and they draw lines on the pitch that aren't straight. And you go, why are we doing this? I just don't want to see this. And you're wasting time. We've spent 5 minutes with the players standing around going, do I celebrate? Do I not celebrate? It just makes the game boring and more of a farce. So they should just, yeah, I agree. Get rid of it and let's just move on with our lives and continue with football the way it should be. Yeah, rugby's been using it for ages and it's worked for rugby and it's worked for rugby league. I mean, technically, maybe it hasn't worked for rugby league as much. People would definitely argue about that they'd still make terrible decisions. But at the end of the day, I think we should just move back to, okay, let the referee, let the ARs sort it out and we can just actually have a faster game. Because for us, at the moment, it's not working and VAR is unfortunately broken. So, yeah, that's my point of view, and I'm sure that Scazz, do you have a similar point of view to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, all right.
Good talk.
No, you want to elaborate, and then we'll move on.
No, nothing more to really add about the VAR myself. I think, as you said, it's kind of like the refereeing itself. You're just going to go, well, that happened, and move on to an extent. I thought the game was quite interesting tactically. In terms of how we set up, I thought we maybe tried to control the ball a little bit more than we have in the last couple of games, and trying to sort of assert ourselves a bit more on the play. But then I was also watching a few times where Western Sydney had the ball, and rather than sort of putting the early pressure on and trying to turn over and regain possession early, we tended to sort of sit off for about 15 to 20 seconds, I counted most times, before we started applying that pressure. So I wasn't quite sure whether we were making the decision to still play that counter-attacking game or whether we were looking more at possession. What was your sort of observation of that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think it was a bit of a mixture as well, to be honest. I think we were torn between wanting to have a bit more possession, and we were also torn between wanting to play the counter-attacking game that's been suiting us these past few weeks. And we saw it. I mean, when we did have those chances in the counter-attack, once again, we ripped them to shreds and our attack looked amazing. But then a couple of times we were caught in possession where we dawdled with it a bit too long, or we weren't sure what to do with it. And so I think that kind of told. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Uffy wants to do with that, because I know that when we're in possession, most of the time we're a bloody good team and we do look really good with the ball. But what's been suiting us so well is those quick counterattacks when we turn the ball over in their half and then we just drive at them. And with players like Piscopo and Uli de Villa, I mean, it suits them to a T. And they can just really rip teams apart when they win that ball and we poach it high, and then they can just do a quick pass or a quick like dribble past the player, take them on, beat them, and then play that killer ball. And we're so good at that. And I think that when we have possession, we kind of lose that a bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Uffy could really set us up as like that counter-attacking team that just excites with 40% of possession. You know, we don't even need the 50 or the 60% possession that most teams would have. We can just rip teams apart with 40. So I hope that in future games we see a bit more of that, because I think that's when we look most dangerous. And you're right, we were kind of caught in two minds. Do we want to have possession? Do we want to give it to them? Do we want to try and hit them in these key areas? Do we want to sit off? We were caught in between those two minds for sure. So yeah.
In terms of what you said about early there, I didn't think he had his best game, to be honest. For us, I know he scored a great goal at the start, but there were a few times when he was one of those ones that was caught in position. I remember on the edge of the box at one point, even looked pretty threatening, but we got away with that one from memory.
No, I think, and that's why I agree. I think it suits him, that counter-attack where he's receiving the ball high up and rather than receiving it closer to goal. Early, and especially Reno as well, Piscopo, they love getting the ball in the opposition half and driving forward or playing that pass. I think that suits them so well, and they're so good at it. So when they end up getting deeper and we're trying to pass it around, I don't think that suits them at all. We need to be in the opposition half, and that's when they do their damage. Okay, moving on. The Brisbane game preview, Dan. I know that you want to say something about this, and I'll let you do it because he is your man and you love talking about him. And so can you please preview this match and also preview a certain player's return for us?
So Brisbane Roar, Stephen Taylor's out of managed isolation. That's all I have to say.
So look out, Brisbane Roar. Stephen Taylor is back, is what Dan has to say.
Yeah. Obviously, he probably won't be starting because he's going to have been sitting around in his room. Well, hopefully not sitting around in his room for the past 2 weeks and needs to gel with the team. But I imagine he'll be put on as a sub, especially if we end up leading towards the end. He'll be the perfect player to turn to if we're maybe trying to conserve a 2-1 lead or anything. Paul, thank you for bringing up the table, because if you turn your eyes to the recent form for Brisbane, it's not great. Two losses and 3 draws. That's not what you want. And I mean, Brisbane early in the season were right up there with the Mariners, challenging, and they're falling off. So what I think this game is for us, I think it fits into that must-win category, and I think it's could be one of those season-defining games, because like how we rebound after the Wanderers, after a point from the Wanderers was stolen from us, and how we and whether we can beat teams that are somewhat ahead of us in the pecking order. Like, those two facts determine whether or not we are turning this thing around, as has been teased in the past 3 games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this game has must-win written all over it, and especially if you look at the table, how close we are in points to those teams above us, how close we are in points to the playoff places, where we could be into those grand final matches. That's where we want to be. So we're aiming, I think, and from the start of the season, I say it every season, we're always aiming for around about 4th or 3rd, those spots. That's where we want to be. And at the moment, I think that with 2 big wins, especially with this one against Brisbane, we can start looking at that area of the table and saying, yes, we belong there, we can get there. I know that obviously other teams have games in hand, and there'll be that kind of, there's still time for those kind of things to iron themselves out. But if we get a win against Brisbane and then we get a win in the next game, we start building momentum, we can start pushing up the table. And I'm really hoping in those next few games that we get the rub of the green a bit, because we need the rub of the green with these refs. We need some decisions to go with us. And I would love to see us actually get some beneficial decisions that actually go in our favor, because I feel like every week I'm like waiting for something to go away, and we just don't get it. And we get a player sent off, or we get a VAR decision go against us like we saw last week, and it just keeps compiling. So I'm hoping that for once we actually get the officials on our side and we get the result, but hopefully we just play well enough that we don't even have to worry about that, and we just play so well that the officials won't even be called into action, because we'll just be playing them off the park. And like you said, Dan, this is a great opportunity for us to do that, because Brisbane aren't in the best run of form. I know we aren't in the best run of form either, but I do think that the results have betrayed the way that we've played, because the results have been unfavourable, whereas I think we've played quite well, and we deserve, those 2 clean sheets that we had, the back-to-back wins, but also a couple of losses where maybe we didn't deserve to lose, and it was just, especially in this most recent game, I definitely don't think we deserved to lose the way we played. So, Scazz, what are your thoughts on the Brisbane game, and what are your thoughts? Dan, if you want to interject, and then Scazz can kind of come back.
Yes, great. Sorry, Scazz. I just want to point out that if there's a time to build momentum, it's now, because we have 3 home games a week. First up is Brisbane, then is Victory.
Home games.
Then is... Well, look, I mean, hopefully by now we have some sort of psychological edge at win. But Brisbane, winnable, Victory. If we lose that, I don't know.
We've lost against them once before already this season. Yeah, exactly.
We are not going to mention that game.
What game?
Yeah, nothing happened. But yeah, like, Victory is shameful if we lose against them. As in as McCarthy, which is a bit more of a test, but again, like, they're also dropping off. So 3 games against 3 sides, like, if you just, which I think none of them have more than 3 points, but none of them have more than 3 points in their last 3 games. That's, you get 9 points, and then you're on 20 points, and that's 100% in playoffs contention. We should be targeting a 9-point week here.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Brisbane, I personally haven't paid much attention to them so far this season. We haven't even played them yet, so I'm just going into this relatively blind by my standards. But no, look, we need to win. Points need to come soon. If they don't, then we're going to quickly run out of the opportunity to actually make those playoffs. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for sure. All right. And I noticed that we've had a question, which I'm going to show on the screen now. Do you guys prefer a winter season or summer season? And is there a show next Wednesday because the Phoenix are playing at the same time? Yes, Simon, there will be a show next Wednesday. We're going to do a bit of a watch along for the first half, and we'll just have a bit of conversation and banter during the game. Also, do we prefer a winter or a summer season? I have to say summer. I'm always going to say summer. I like it because it means that we don't clash like too much with the Premier League as well. So I can really focus on the A-League. Like, I've got my football fix with the A-League in the summer, and then the Premier League kicks off again. And so I can watch the Premier League afterwards, which is what I love. So yeah, I definitely say summer. And also it just means that there's your sport for choice in terms of sport throughout the year and football throughout the year. I love it. Scazz?
Yeah, I just don't want to have it during the local season, to be honest.
Yeah.
I want to have those very occasional days where there's a game down at Sky Stadium, fingers crossed, and you're supposed to be off playing in, I don't know, Wainui or something like that. So for that reason, I like it as it is. But, as long as there's football, I'm happy.
And Dan?
It's more convenient for us as fans to have it in the summer season. I think for football, minusing whether or not we're competing with NRL and Aussie rules and stuff like that. If you take that as an equation, football is definitely better in the winter for the players because, I mean, playing in brisk conditions is lovely, and football is fundamentally a winter sport. But I'm not going to pretend to be anywhere near knowledgeable enough to know whether or not we can compete with Aussie rules and NRL and stuff like that. So I'm playing both sides here.
Yeah, and I think Simon raises a valid point as well, where the fact is broadcasters in Australia prefer a summer as well, because for those reasons that you've suggested, Dan, there's going to be no clashes between the other codes, and also because in general it's just better for the A-League as well, because that's what people are used to, and that means that they can get TV rights across that as well as they can get TV rights across all those other things that they're trying to cover. So they're not like, oh, which one do we need to favor and where do we get our camera crews to? Because I mean, you can easily see that becoming something that kind of falls by the wayside, and they focus on Aussie rules or NRL rather than the God forbid they call it soccer over there. I can't believe that. Rather than the football, because no one wants to call it soccer because that's ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about our question for the week, because we've talked about Brisbane, we've talked about that Western Sydney Wanderers robbery. So, final question in terms of A-League. Who is the ideal midfield 2 for the Wellington Phoenix? So we're talking about in the 4-2-2-2, obviously those two guys in the holding roles. We've had a couple of combos there. For me, I'm going to say something contrary to what Dan suggested with, he's going to suggest it soon, but I'm going to say Devlin.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. I'm going to say Devlin and Rufer are my two. That's who I think. Scazz, do you want to go, and then we can let Dan say who he thinks?
Yeah, I actually agree, surprisingly. I probably wouldn't have thought that, a season ago. But no, Rufer's been pretty solid, and Devlin, when he puts a performance on like Monday, hard to look past him. I mean, even before the goal, I had written down, I took 26 notes down in the game, and number 5, which came 7 before the goal, was Devlin looking his old self. We finally had last season's Devlin back yesterday. I felt just an energetic workhorse, still the odd tackle that you go, oh, that could go wrong, but he puts him under pressure and he causes a lot of turnovers. So he's really essential, I think, if we want to play that sort of more high octane football. Rufer, as I say, has been solid. I think he gets a lot of stick that he doesn't deserve. He can play a pass forward when he wants to.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's also good at rotating the position, and I think if we want to, again, we come back to that question of what style of football do we want to play. But if we want to be able to hold on to the ball, I think those two are the ones to do it. Lewis, he's been decent, but for me, just not quite at the same standard.
Mm-hmm. Dan.
So once again, I'm going to run contrary to you both. And once again, as a person who will self-admittedly say that I am the worst person to talk about tactical shape and all that here, but just looking at it, I have to say it's Ruth and Lewis, because, I mean, when you look at the games we've won and the games we've lost, there's that 2-1 win against the Mariners, which we in no way deserved. And then there's the 2 games we won with Ruth and Lewis. There's also last season where we had Matty Steinman. Alex Ruth got injured, Cam Devlin came in, and Devlin Steinman basically became an excellent pairing. And I think maybe that Rufer and Devlin are just a little too similar in that they're both kind of box to box, or both run for days. Rufer may be more ball winning midfielder. God, I'm thinking about Football Manager here now. But yeah, they both play very similarly, and I think we need someone with a bit more difference between them. And it's harsh because, I mean, in an ideal world, they'd all get play, but I mean that's part of being a manager. Yeah. I'm with Rufer Devlin until Rufer Lewis until proven otherwise.
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting that we've all chosen Rufer over the Devlin Lewis combo, which is another interesting combo, and I think does work well as well. But it just shows how far Rufer has come in terms of his ability and in terms of his standing now as vice captain of the Wellington Phoenix, and also his standing as a player. He has developed tremendously. I know he doesn't score goals, which is something that he definitely does. I'm sure he would love to add to his game, because it's been so long now with an A-League goal, and everyone is rooting for him to finally score it. But I think that he does bring that extra kind of defensive shield ability. And I think that Devlin is more of that kind of box to box. He'll score a goal, but he'll also get back. And Rufer has that ability to kind of recognize when Devlin's gone forward and will sit, and he does a really good job at that. And he shields really well. And I think that it's something that he's really developed a lot in terms of his game recently. Not only like this season, but also the past couple of seasons, we've seen him slowly bring his game up to that level that he needs to be at. And I think Lewis will get there, but he's just not quite at that level just yet because he's obviously been playing for Auckland City. He had a spell at Scunthorpe for a little bit, but he didn't really get much game time over there. So now he's kind of starting to cut his teeth at that professional level week in, week out, and he's starting to get to that level. But I think Roof has been there for so long. He knows the league like the back of his hand, and he's got that little edge. And Cammy Devlin, I mean, for years, he's just been one of these, well, for the last 2 years, he's been one of those guys that we just look at and go, every week he looks like he's getting better and better. And I know he kind of tailed off at the start of the season, but then again, like he started to look again like his old self, like he was, where he was just improving week in, week out. And so I think he's going to be a huge part of the Phoenix moving forward. And I think we absolutely need to start him every game because absolute class. I think Lewis will get his chance and he'll come on as a sub and get his opportunities. But I think Cammy Devlin can't be overlooked. He's fantastic. And if he can reclaim that form that he had at the tail end of the last season and continue to improve every week, I think we're going to see him in the team of the season at the end of the year again, like he deserves, because outstanding player on his day. Okay. The final little thought for you boys as well. I think we've done a lot of talking about the Wellington Phoenix, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that this weekend, it's the final iteration of the ISPS Hunter Premiership, the New Zealand National League, if you will, with franchises. So Team Wellington, Auckland City, all these franchises that we've known. Some of us have loved, some of us don't really care about them over these past few years. They are coming to an end in this final iteration. We're going to have a grand final. It's going to be the two old enemies, Team Wellington and Auckland City, facing off in the final. I think it's a fitting way to end the franchise era, if you will, and then we'll be moving on into the club era. So winter clubs such as Eastern Suburbs are already in there, Hamilton Wanderers are already in there, but they're going to become the key. And then we're going to see, instead of Team Wellington, we're going to have Miramar Rangers. We're going to have Western Suburbs competing as well. So if you're Wellington based, you'll know those clubs. If you're in Auckland, the likes of Ellerslie could even get in there. You're looking at other teams, Three Kings. I'm just naming random Auckland clubs now. All these teams could compete and get into those as well. Century United, Auckland City's feeder team. Auckland City's feeder team, Century United. I don't know whether Auckland City will still exist. I think Team Wellington are going to become Miramar Rangers. That looks like it's going to happen, but yeah, Century United could become what Auckland City were. So that's crazy thinking about that as well. This is going to be the new iteration. I want to ask two questions to you boys. One is going to be simple. It's going to be who's going to win between Team Wellington and Auckland City and what's the score going to be? And then number two will be what are your thoughts on the new competition format? Before we get to that, Simon, again, thank you for your question. It's a shame that their team, all Auckland City and Team Wellington's last game, I'm not a fan of the new competition structure myself. Well, let's talk about if we are fans or not, Simon, and you'll see if we agree with you or not, whether we think it's good. So I'll start with you, Scazz. Who's going to win between Team Wellington and Auckland City, and what are your thoughts on the new competition format?
So you mentioned there's some of us out there that don't really care about the ISPS Hunter Premiership. I probably fall a little bit closer to that camp. I think I've gone to about 5 games in my life, mainly when I've been back in Hawke's Bay and thought, oh, let's go and watch one of the Wellington teams play against Hawke's Bay United. I'm a Wellingtonian at heart. So, I've got to go for Team Welly. I think Watson, from what I have seen, the few clips I have watched this season, has been having a stormer. So let's see if he can do the magic there. But Auckland City, they've done the business for so long that you never know. Yeah,
they have done the business. And former next man, actually, Logan Rogerson, now playing for Auckland City. It's a swan song game. He's off to Europe after that game. So we wish Logan Rogerson all the best as well. And Dan, before we get Scazz's thoughts on the new competition format, we'll just ask you your prediction for the final score as well. So who do you think is going to win?
I do love that this is Jose versus Scott and the final competition. That to me is quite lovely. We're going to go Wellington because I like Wellington. Auckland, I don't live there. Wellington, I live there. Let's go Team Welly. Also, Hamish Watson and, as better football pay me to say, Sam Mason-Smith.
You know what? I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to go Auckland City because why not?
Trade it.
Auckland City to win 2-1 over Team Wellington in the final. That's my guess. Okay, Scazz. So, your thoughts on the new competition format, and then we'll go to you, Dan.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, this. I think it's pretty clear that the current model just wasn't sustainable, especially after COVID. But the money's just not really there to keep it afloat. And then you've got this question of, well, by shifting it on to clubs, is that going to be a positive thing, or is that just going to create financial problems for the clubs? My understanding is that the fees for Central League and the equivalents are going to go up to cover entry into the National League. So hopefully by spreading those costs around the place, we can see it succeed. But I do have concerns about that. On the other hand, what an incentive for local club teams to know if you really do well during the year, then you can end up in the National League and going and playing at the highest level in the country, putting the Phoenix aside. So I think for me that's the biggest thing. It's a really incredible incentive for players to really push and do what they can and try and get those titles and move up. So on balance, I'm in favour of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's totally fair. And Dan, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, it's very new. It's very different. I'm going to welcome it with an open heart and open mind. But I just don't. I don't know enough about like how this has worked overseas. If it is done overseas, I don't think it is. I think I don't know enough about whether or not this can work because it's something completely foreign to how we normally run a football competition. What I will say is that I'm a little agnostic. Hello, Paul.
Go on, finish off. Then I'll make a couple of comments.
Yeah, I am a little agnostic over like us putting caps on foreign players, partially because like everyone's always like, oh, let's cap foreign players so it gives the youth more of a chance. Foreign players are just going to rate. The more foreign players are, obviously you need to have a cap at some point, but the more foreign players there are, you're just raising the standard the youth have to compete to. And like just using the Phoenix as an example, I love my Libby Kakachis, my Sarpreet Singhs, my Ben Waynes, but I wouldn't. I would rather have my Ulysses Davilas, my Stephen Taylors, my Roy Krishnas, rather than 3 more Kakachis, Singhs, and Waynes. And I think like limiting the amount of foreigners we can have might not be the best way to go about this.
So I guess some sort of thoughts about this from a sort of player's point of view is how many of these players in these clubs maybe want to have that amount of travel? Have you got I'm assuming that they're not going to be full-time professionals. They're going to be best semi-professional or even totally amateur. So do they actually want to have, are they happy just playing a high level in Auckland? Do they want to have to, can their jobs allow them to travel down to for a national comp? If your club does get into that national comp, do they end up just taking all the best players from all the clubs in that area region to join that club because that's the club that's successful and gets into the kind of Premier League, as it were? Who wants to play for a struggling team when you can? And so I guess do you end up just having the same clubs qualifying every year because they qualified the first year and all the team and the players sort of moved there to get that national competition, and those players that don't want to anyway because they just can't do the travel. It just seems for an amateur or when you got amateurs, it's a much more difficult concept than just than when you're dealing with professional teams. I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
I think they are trying to take steps to address that issue of players sort of pooling up at one club. I think putting restrictions on transfers between the regular season and the National League season, or the Champions League as I'm going to call it, I think, from memory. But yeah, I think it's a real problem, especially the travel part. But think from a perspective of someone on a committee of a local club, I think it would be very difficult for us to do anyway. But I think if people really want to play at the highest level, they'll do it. And you just got to.
Oh no, absolutely. But your problem comes into those guys who are very talented, realise they're never going to actually earn a living out of it, have got a decent job, and realise that actually, I'm going to have to turn down playing now because, or hey, I've qualified my club, but now 2 or 3 of you, maybe not your best players, but 2 or 3 of your squad players just can't turn up for the National League, and suddenly you actually have a weaker squad for the Champions League than you do have for your club competition, which would be a bit silly. So anyway, yeah, let's just hope they sort those sort of issues out. That's my only concern about going this route, rather than necessarily having a rep team per league playing off, which I guess is what the franchises essentially are.
Yeah, the franchises will be just that vision. I think what we will see though is that a lot of those franchise players, the people who are playing for the likes of Auckland City, Team Wellington, will be integrated into these winter clubs, and a lot of them will end up in the same kind of areas. So, for example, a lot of those Team Wellington players will just go to Miramar and will be playing in that Miramar team, or Olympic will be the other one, and the teams with the most money will be the ones that qualify. That's what it's going to be like. So you'll see the likes of Wairarapa United, where they're being bankrolled, they'll be there. Western Suburbs, who are bankrolled by an academy, by a good junior program, they'll be in that conversation as well. They've got a lot of good players there. Miramar Rangers, of course, with the Team Wellington connection, they'll be in that. I'm just talking about all Wellington clubs. And then if you go and you look at Auckland, Central United, Hamilton Wanderers, and Eastern Suburbs, who have all been in that franchise conversation anyway. Central United are basically Auckland City. They'll just get all the Auckland City players. Those guys were semi-professionals pretty much. They'll just be competing in that again. And so these will be all those players. They'll be competing.
Again, it comes down to what do you want your clubs? I mean, obviously, it's like you guys from Wellington, the Wellington club's better than the others than others. But do you really is club rugby is community sport about playing with your mates and having people you play juniors with your club, you come to the seniors and you go back and you watch, and basically you're there for your full life, or is it about hey, who's got the most cash and buying players from other teams? I don't know what. It comes down to what do you want your community rugby to be about, or your community football, your club football to be about.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on what level you are. So the higher level you are, you're going to play for whoever's going to give you the most money.
These are just sort of questions that if you go down this route where you're having community clubs qualifying for this tournament, are you messing around with the ethos of the whole club?
I think this model it's not going to change too much from what it currently is. To be honest, the way it is at the moment is that whoever's got so money, for those players who are semi-pros or pros potentially looking to get to that next level to be pros, or football is their main job, then they're going to be the players who go, right, who's going to pay me the most money? I'll go to that club and I'll play for them. And then if you're like someone like me or someone like Scazz, we're going to be we want to be those community people who we know that we're not going to earn money from football. It's not going to be our living in terms of that. And so we want to sort out our club and make sure that our club continues to progress, and we'll play for that club and we'll be loyal to that club because that's what we know and that's what we love. And we want to be those people who are down at the club rooms week in, week out and doing that. And every club has those people, and that's what means that clubs they prevail and they do well. It's just that some clubs have wealthier people who will bring those the likes of a Hamish Watson or a Sam Mason-Smith into their team and say, hey, we want you to play for us. And I think Miramar are the kind of club that have the resources. They've got the junior club set up to do that, and they'll be able to bring those players back and say, we want you to play for this team. And those players will be like, yep, we want to play there. Unless a team from Australia comes in and say, hey, we can pay you more money, in which case they'll go, oh, no, we've got a chance in Australia. We'll go across there. Or the Wellington Phoenix come calling, in which case they'll go to Wellington Phoenix. It's just once you're at that level, the money talks. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Chris?
No, nothing more on that.
I thought you put your hand up. No, you're absolutely right. Look, and there needs to be a pathway for those people. Absolutely, there has to be. It's all about balance, isn't it? Let's be honest. At the end of the day, there you go.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think this will be beneficial for those young people as well, like all those young kids who are going to get more game time because of it and will develop. I think that's going to be great. It's just that once you get to that certain level, there will always be that pull and push of, oh, this club's offering me more and I could have a greater chance of progressing with this club. So maybe I go to this team, and you do have that kind of rep mentality where there's a whole bunch of really good players that you think you can develop off, but also you think that you can progress in terms of your job and your life. And so obviously that's going to be something that you really look at and say, actually, I could earn money here. This could be a pathway to me progressing as a footballer. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It's a very different kind of setup, but also I think Simon was right when he said that this competition structure was done 30 years ago. It has been done before. The big clubs were playing in the National League and it was the same. I mean, we did have a whole bunch of people playing in these clubs in winter clubs, and then at the end of the season they kind of did like a big competition at the end to see who was the best. And I know we already have the Chatham Cup as well, which contributes to that. There's just a lot of motivation now for players, and Chris was right. If we do get a chance, maybe someone will sneak into that. I mean, I'm looking at the South Island, for example. There's a lot of untapped potential down in the South Island to challenge the well-established clubs down there, or the people who are bankrolled, because I know that they don't have like a traditional big four down there. There's maybe two clubs that win it week out, and they win it every year. So maybe that we'll see a new kind of amateur team from Christchurch come up and do the business, which would be great. And it would be great for the game, and a good team of young players kind of challenging the traditional status quo of all these players who played in the likes of Auckland City and stuff would be fantastic for New Zealand football. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. We've got the chance to see that now with the demise of franchises, and we'll see what clubs rise to the top and challenge in that Champions Cup format. Dan, Chris, is there anything else before we sign off? Dan, I'll start with you, and then Scazz, you can have a final word.
Just that next week it's a live watch, so come along to that. Should be fun.
Watch along. The first half at least. We'll see if we can get the second half, but I'm sure that we'll do the first half, and that'll be great. Scazz?
Yeah, no, looking forward to that. I just hope I can get my computer working again so that I can have the game going on Sky Sport now, but we'll figure something out. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, join us, as the ticker says, join us for the live watch next Wednesday. It'll be an absolute pleasure to kind of react along to that game. But as always, I'll sign it off with thank you for joining the show. You can catch up on all the A-League results every morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing, and get your weekly Phoenix fix at 9 p.m. next Wednesday, which will be that live show watch, which we are very excited to watch along. And don't forget to go whack New Zealand Sports Radio a few dollars on Patreon if you can. It increases our motivation to be back here each week and results in higher production quality. So from myself, Connor Clements, from Dan Moskovitz, and from Chris Scarrett, who is going to be a regular on this show now. Congratulations, Scazz. Great to have you on board. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we are signing off. We'll see you for the live watch next week. See you later.